Guys, let's talk about Allkem, Livent, and I mean, let's just sort of peel back the curtain and look at those transaction costs because they're up there with some of the best we've seen, right?
The costs are insane. So the combined transaction costs, this is a pre-tax number, US $117 million. That's 190 million Aussie dollars at the moment. I've never seen mining company transaction costs that high. I've put the word out to as many of my investment banker mates as I know, and I said, have you ever seen transaction costs in a merger this high?
Righto, g'day bloody miners. Welcome to another day of the bloody best mining news in Australia and possibly on the planet, boys. We get a little brief chat on Azure for a change, but there's been some heavy trading at a significant premium to SQM's offer price this morning.
Some rumours floating around that could be Pilbara.
JD, you're going deep into ExxonMobil.
I don't think it's that deep, but there is a bit to talk about there. You know, one of the biggest...
Because they're oil and gas.
One of the biggest oil companies... Took me a while. Yeah, so one of the biggest oil companies in the world, you know, some of the headlines saying they're becoming a lithium company. I'm not so sure about that exaggerated headline, but nevertheless, pretty interesting.
Yeah, we've got a rare earths IPO that Miss Rinehart's involved in.
Yeah, we need to talk about more of Gina, so we're adding another Gina story.
Yeah, we don't want her on. She's just in the news a lot. So
Imagine if she came on. I reckon that'd be good for her PR coming on.
I'd rip in. I'd be like, nah, bugger, we're not doing.
Go easy.
We're not doing any fluff
like,
fests on big names.
If you're ever going to seem relatable, it's talking to us.
Yes,
not any other crap.
Can't see why she wouldn't want to. Our Allkem Livent merger. Bit on that, and we've got a bit of a new mystery segment just to highlight how ahead of the curve Money of Mine is and will be into the future.
It's a mystery to me. I don't even know what you're going to talk about there.
Are you future-proofing Money of Mine, mate?
Future-proofing. I could be. I had a plan of how I was going to do this, but I'm running with yours. Right. It's been all action in the end of year reporting, so it's nearly come to an end, hasn't it? All the annual reports are out. Most of them, aren't they?
But the AGMs haven't been had.
Well, they're the ones that report financial year,
which is the majority of companies.
But then there's also the ones that report calendar year.
Yeah,
there's a couple.
It's a minority, but there are definitely some companies that will report their financial year in line with the calendar year.
So WAF,
Resolute,
Gold Road, Iluka, 29 Metals.
Yeah.
But the reason I say this is if you are reporting via the calendar year, now's the time to take action on sustainability reports.
Ooh, yeah. You don't want it to bloody pile up on you.
Because that is a thing that can really, shit. We forgot about that. Companies need to take actions.
And who would you call?
That's where future-proof consulting comes in, making sustainability simple. Because you look at the clients they've worked with. So ESG strategy and sustainability report gurus, look at the names.
Wow.
Anyone that works with the biggest lithium hard rock producing mine in the world, Greenbushes, you got to take them seriously, boys.
There's some good and bad companies in that list, but mostly very good.
Yeah,
doesn't matter if you're good or bad, you still have to do a sustainability report. So
for those listening to the audio, some of the names on the list there, you've got Ramelius Regis, Austal, Taliesin Lithium, Capricorn 29 Metals, a whole bunch of them, right?
Degrade, Mincor, Neo Metals. Oh, mate, tell you what. Now, as we said, Future-Proof did 20 or 30 sustainability reports last year. And that, as we mentioned in the previous episode, too hard basket. Yeah, that's why you get someone else to do it that really enjoys that sort of shit. 29 Metals are a client. They took action as a calendar year reporter. They are a client of 29 Metals. So I guess I'm putting the call out to your WAF, your Resolute, your Iluka and Gold Road. Take action now. Get that sustainability report sorted, because you don't want to be one of those companies that's like, oh shit, we sort of left that to the last minute. That's where the future-proof team would come in.
Get on the front foot, get it done, call future-proof.
Get the wheels in motion. Take action. Be like 29 Metals.
Well, don't be like 29 Metals. You don't want
in the sense of sustainability reporting.
Yeah, they got a bit to talk about there, because I mean, heck, there's some environmental considerations in relation to Capricorn at the moment.
That is true. That's going to be a good report to write.
Yeah.
a bit,
All the more reason to get
a lot
fish
of detail. No, right. So had me barn me today. Delicious as always. Q had a message for the money miners. Can you break? Can you break it yourself?
Need K-drill.
Need K-drill.
We need K-drill. This bloody hard rock. I reckon Ryan's hand can crush it.
How did you just keep that rock behind his counter?
Mate, he is absolutely in need of Ryan O'Sullivan going to get a barn me, because he has even procured a rock for him to break with his bare hands. Q's tried. He's he's got the pork crackle knife on it, tried to try and everything, straight out of bloody Ho Chi Minh City.
And Matty, the numbers have been growing, so we should probably tell people who Ryan O'Sullivan is because of those new audio and YouTube subscribers that have been trickling in.
Well, I'd like to see YouTube actually get an analytic where we can see how many people have new subscribers or future growth that has been purely attributable to the Ryan O'Sullivan myth and legend of this bare hand rock breaking, because I think it'd be high. So, yeah.
And more to the point, mate, I don't think Ryan has any time to go get a barn me from that seat because he's too busy finding mineral discoveries. Sometimes he uses the RC drill rigs that Cage will have, but most of the time it's with his bare hands.
Well, but the bare hand thing's only been sort of for the last year, so it's I think it took a bit of time to get his craft. So I think he's getting a bit quicker at like the bare hand rock breaking technique. So he might have a spare 10 minutes because K-Drill are growing as a company. With that comes extra capability, extra RC drilling, diversified offerings like the bare hand rock breaking. But stay tuned. K-Drill, big news coming out of them soon, and we're going to drop it on Money of Mine. So, look, in the meantime, get in touch with them for your RC drilling needs or just to shake Ryan O'Sullivan's hand.
You might not have a hand left at the end of that.
I have shook it so many times and I'm like part of the minority in the world. I'm a very lucky man. Righto, boys, let's get into it. Azure trading as high as $4.37 today. Big question. Who is buying?
This is really interesting one, Matty. I got word yesterday afternoon that Pilbara Minerals have been buying a stake in Azure. If you look at the price action today, it doesn't at all look like the price action you typically see in M&A when someone's sort of, doing a raid or buying a stake.
Pretty low volume. Like there was a bit pre-trade and 10 o'clock, but like everything else has been pretty.
Yeah.
What is it? It's only three and a bit million shares, wasn't it?
Yeah. And in the last
3.2 million shares traded today.
Totally. And in the last week since Allison stopped buying, 5% of the register has turned over. But I wonder if the price action today is actually just a retail reaction to the rumour that Pilbara had been buying a stake. I do think there's merit in the fact that Pilbara own some, and I don't know if they've been building that stake or not. But I'd love to. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to make of the price action today. But let's roll with the theory that Pilbara has been increasing their stake recently, and kind of talk about why, if that is true, why would they be doing that at all?
That $4.37 for the money miners, that's 23% above SQM's offer price.
Yeah.
So it's a significant premium on the significant premium.
Yeah. And if Pilbara's buying a stake here, right? Like why? Like there's no realistic pathway to control here because you've got SQM with 20%, you've got Gina with nearly 20%. So it's like, what are they going to achieve by buying a minority stake here? I think at the margins they could frustrate Gina slightly, but consider this, right, as a hypothetical. Do you think Pilbara could be trying to pick up its own blocking stake to advocate for Pilbara Minerals, to become part of the Gina consortium in the most favourable manner possible? If you buy a stake here, then do you kind of, incorporate yourself into that tie-up
You're
and whatever
in the
it
purple
could look like?
circle, Ricardinho.
Yeah, totally. That's I think a legitimate theory that we could entertain it, right? Buying a blocking stake gives them some leverage. Or, and here's an alternative theory, because I think that's the most explainable outcome. If Pilbara's buying a stake here, it's like a seat at the table for a tie-up. Like it's going to be really hard to get any change of control outcome yourself. But it's in their they've got protection on the downside because worst case scenario you can sell to SQM at $3.50, right? So you're paying a little bit for optionality. Worst case scenario, you can sell your shares to SQM for $3.50. So it kind of makes sense there. But I've got an alternative theory, and I think this is a lower probability theory. Imagine if if Chris is happy to align with SQM under the condition that MinRes get mining services contract, right? That hypothetical scenario. Then all of a sudden, where does that leave Gina? Because SQM's got the funding capability. So anyway, maybe there's a bit of an alignment there. And Pilbara's coming into the fray to align with Hancock. And you could see the 2 and 2 battle against each other and the rift in Christina. I don't know. There's two potential hypotheticals I'll throw out there. I think in reality, I've got no freaking idea what these negotiations look like, but Pilbara is absolutely kind of getting themselves into a seat at the table in those negotiations right now.
Or Gina Rinehart buys MinRes and Chris Ellison gets his exit.
There's a whole bunch of permutations, Matty. A whole bunch of permutations.
That's another viable one to realise the value of his business.
The one that I'd ascribe the most sort of, or the greatest probability of happening to is Chris getting his hands on the mining contract.
Yeah, but do you think he'd be happy to align with SQM to get his hands on the mining contract there?
I think so.
Yeah. And so then where does that leave Gina? Would Gina want to be tied up in that?
I think the relationship between, Chris Gina could play out to be quite, case by case.
Right.
But that's all speculation.
You look at the trading, the way it's been trading today. Yes, it's gone up a lot. But it's all been on market, not that high volume. Look at when Gina was buying Linetown, big massive block trades after the close.
Yeah, this isn't textbook of how you buy a stake.
Would
this is 12 million bucks.
Would Pilbara be buying on market in small blocks? I wouldn't think so.
No, you wouldn't buy in this manner. You'd have some like sensibilities and execution, trade execution. So there's some rumor baked into this this price action, I think.
Yeah, money miners, watch the course of sales after the close of trade, because that's obviously when all the big stuff happened that you didn't really see in the numbers unless you looked for Linetown. So probably watch after trade, see if anything happens for Azure. Right, JD, ExxonMobil, big bloody, talk about a big company. What'd you say, 3 times as big as BHP?
Yeah, roughly US $415 billion market cap. So they're huge.
Wow.
So what they claim to be doing is that they're going to use their oil and gas IP that they've built up over the decades to access deep saltwater reservoirs. They'll then use DLE technology to separate the lithium from the saltwater and ultimately produce a battery-grade lithium on site. And they want to be doing this by 2027, which is, it's going to fly by. It's going to be here in
4 years.
Yeah, not too distant future. And by 2030, they claim that they'll be producing enough lithium for 1 million electric vehicles. So pretty lofty ambitions, although not too many actual hard numbers being put to this just yet. So they've got this brine project in the US state of Arkansas called Smackover.
Smackover.
Pretty hilarious name.
What a name.
I think if it's down there in Joe Arizona, it's smack over.
We should
Like
add that.
Thacker Pass.
Yeah.
Let's add that to our list of projects to tour.
I was about to say something that would have got us in a lot of trouble, so I'll just keep it in my throat.
We'll just hold fire now.
It's to do with this Prodigy song.
So I find Exxon moving into lithium super fascinating. They've obviously got way deeper pockets than pretty much all the companies we talk about going into production in lithium. I want to see if it actually, bears fruit, this strategy that they have this IP from decades of oil and gas, drilling, and whether that's actually going to, mean anything and ultimately result in better cash flows in future. And then, the aspect of DLE, we've been talking about it quite a bit lately. I want to see how they prove that out, whether they can prove it out, whether it then becomes an industry standard. And lastly, if that all works, what that does to the lithium cost curve is just going to be fascinating. And, there are a lot of open-ended questions there. Mm-hmm. But like we said, 4 years isn't that far away. If they can prove up this whole process and be producing in 4 years' time, then I dare say we're going to see some serious changes to how the lithium market looks.
Do you think they're going to be one of the first movers to prove DLE?
I think they've got, like I said, sort of deeper pockets, so they can give it a real crack, as opposed to some of these other companies, which I don't even want to mention, that were talking about it last year and the year before.
But no one's proved it yet. No one's
proved it, but these guys can run at a loss for a longer period than pretty much any other company. So maybe that gives them a bit of an edge in it. Maybe it's, Rio have spoken about it as well. They've got fairly deep pockets. Maybe they that sort of funding leads to a breakthrough. It is probably worth noting that Exxon is teaming up with a group called Terra Technologies. Maybe they're the ones that bring a bit of expertise in that DLE component. We'll see over the coming months when they sort of start putting firmer numbers and start putting that plan into the ground.
Wouldn't you expect like the breakthrough? I think the deep pockets is an important point rather than the single asset developer who requires the tech to make sense, because you need the flexibility to run at a loss and innovate and all that sort of stuff. But wouldn't the first movers from an innovation perspective probably be the existing brine producer who's making profit and kind of takes a small scale risk with some amount of capital and then iterates based on that, and eventually that brews some innovation, but they've already got the in-house like lithium expertise? I think either that or the oil company who just has orders of magnitude more funding capability could be where the real breakthrough here.
Yeah,
Arcadium would be due for another merger in a year or two, since they've done this one. So
yeah, you're dead right, and we'll get onto that one in a bit. But firstly, I want to talk about that rare earths IPO that we've been hearing a bit about in the news. So
one word, Gina.
And I mean, a word I didn't think I'd be saying in relation to a Brazilian rare earths IPO, Mr. Ricardinho, Whitehaven. Why don't you break it down for us?
Some headlines floating about this IPO coming to market with Gina as a major as a shareholder there. The company will list as Brazilian Rare Earths with a $50 million raise. I think Canaccord is doing the IPO. And at a $314 million valuation.
That's a good ticket to clip for an IPO.
Yeah.
So I think
the weird thing on that register, of course, is that Whitehaven Coal is a shareholder. The Whitehaven Coal that obviously has a portfolio of both met and thermal assets on the east coast of Australia has a shareholding in a Brazilian rare earth company that is currently unlisted.
And this isn't some lofty IPO that's going to happen way in the future. I mean, we're talking about a December listing here, right?
Yeah, it's near. And in other news, in relation to Whitehaven, their share price is back trading below what it was pre-announcement of the acquisition of the met coal assets from BHP in Queensland.
So, poor reaction to the purchase.
No, the initial reaction, like intraday, was up sort of 16%. A lot of that's come off. Coal prices in general have sort of come off a little bit too.
Met coal prices have been strong though, so I'm not really sure what to read into that, but I've noticed it just like you, Trav. So I guess we'll see over the longer term.
What's happening with Gina and Arafura? That's gone quiet.
Yeah, it has. I think Arafura is stuck in there. Financing, which is hyper complicated for the myriad of reasons we've talked about with DK.
Yeah, this obviously might be her another rare earth play. She's obviously got some interest in it, but things are going quiet on that front.
All these billionaires copy each other, mate.
Bloody billion plus capex in the middle of absolute butt fuck nowhere.
These billionaires copy each other. It's like, oh, we're all in iron ore, and then I think like Chris had his own rare earth play with VHM when they came to market. The IPO marketing was all Allison-backed rare earth developer. Now, like Gina's obviously picked her ones. They do gas at the same time. They do lithium at the same time. Gina's a bit delayed on that one, but
do you reckon they have a Sunday meeting or something?
I don't know. I think
like a catch up, like, hey, what do we? You in lithium this week? Yeah, I'll go lithium too.
Maybe they might maybe it's FOMO. Maybe it's like, I can't. I don't know. I don't know how the egos of billionaires work, but
I think it'd be
one
like
day, mate,
scones and tea and stuff. Like it'd be pretty sophisticated catch up, I'd reckon.
Guys, let's talk about Allkem Livent. This is probably the deepest dive we're going to do today, and it's pretty intriguing. So we first spoke about this in, I think, our first or perhaps second month of production. So this is going to be an all-scrip merger. Allkem getting 56% of the merge co. Livent, the American, more of a chemicals business, getting 44%. So there's a few interesting angles that I want to talk about today. Firstly, is the deal fair? We've just seen the independent experts report come out in the past couple of days. So we're going to comment on that and just sort of see where the cash flows, where the resources, where the capacity is coming from over the coming few years. Also want to talk about Mount Catlin just briefly. And lastly, as there's a bit of a hobby here, I want to talk about what the incentives are. You got, the various players. You've got Livent, Allkem, you've got the bankers, you've got the fund managers. Let's sort of break down and maybe put into context the headlines you're reading from various sources and what they're really angling at. So this all comes to a head. December 19th is when we're going to see the vote here in Perth.
So that's the scheme vote?
That's the scheme vote. So like we've gone over in the past, 50% of the voters and 75% of the shares being voted need to be put in line of the deal for that to go ahead. So December 19th is the date, and then you'll just need court approval shortly after that.
Right. Is the deal fair, JD?
All right, let's start
Run
there.
your eye over it.
So the argument we've seen lately, and it's come from Allkem shareholders, is that perhaps they're getting a bit of a shorter straw here. They say they're contributing 72% of the resources and a few other, bits above their 56% of the merge code that they'll get, so they're not happy. So I'm just going to put the shout out here for any fund managers. There's been reported Aussie fund managers not happy. If you want to, get in touch, come on the show and put your face and put a voice to your thoughts why the deal's not fair, just get in touch.
Don't be an activist via the AFR article. That doesn't achieve anything. Well,
That's
it does,
just-
but
that's just
Consider
lousy.
it a form of therapy. Like, come in, let your hair down, just get it all out. We're happy for it to be a shoulder to lean on.
That's it.
Money of mine.
So we'll skim over who's contributing what right now. So like I said, 72% of the resources are coming from Allkem. Now that obviously doesn't speak to any resource upside that you can see. So that's a bit of a crude metric to go off. Consensus indicates that Allkem are going to be contributing roughly 60% of the pro forma capacity. That's on a lithium carbonate equivalent basis up until 2030. So the next sort of 6 financial years. But I would note that sort of some analysts are saying that is actually closer to a 50-50% ratio by the time you get to FY30. So Allkem contributing more in the more immediate future, and then that ratio balancing out. In terms of cash flows, it's the same sort of dynamic. Allkem contributing a bit more in the near term, and then that sort of balancing out over time. Multiples is another lens to look at this one, and it was one that we'd seen a lot of the Allkem shareholders be pretty pro the deal. They're saying we're trading at whatever 3 or 4 times now, and you can see, hey, Livent over in America, they're trading at 6 or 7 times. But over the past 6 months, that has been largely eroded. The sort of group of peers in America for lithium companies is trading at about 5.7 times, and here in Australia, 5.3 times. So
Function of the price pullback on lithium, mostly.
Yeah, so the prices of lithium companies in America has come off more than it has for lithium companies in Australia.
Probably even more exposure to hydroxide downstream versus the upstream rock where in Australia.
Exactly, a few different sort of lenses to look at it. I mean, we've been pretty scathing of mining companies using multiples in the past, but I'll let them off here because a lot of these assets have very long lives. And, that group of peers in America is, made up of chemicals businesses and the like as well. So a bit more of a bit more reason to compare them with industrial style businesses, hence using a multiple.
So the multiple reflects the longer mine life operations in a way, does it?
Yeah, you'd use a multiple on your downstream facility, like to value that. But mines have a finite life. So you want to do a DCF on that finite life.
Yeah. On the independent expert report, so that came out in a massive 630-page report just in the past week. So it was great reading, Matty. You missed out.
Where's Ali GC when you need her? She'd tear that one a new arsehole.
She would. So Kroll were the group that did the independent experts report, and between the low value and the high case value, they said that Allkem were contributing either in the low case 54.5% or in the high case 56.4% of the value to the combined entity. So, i.e. that's in line with what the deal has been pitched at. And just lastly on the consensus pricing that was used, they reported it being US $14.05 per tonne for spod, US $20,000 for carbonate, and $22,000 for hydroxide. So
hydroxide is actually currently trading at a discount to carbonate, isn't it?
yeah, it's in some reports that it's at a discount. Others saying they're in line at the moment. So
Yeah.
and
you've been talking a bit about Mount Catlin getting sort of prettied up to be flogged off. JD, have you got any has that thought process evolved over time at all? Or, how have you been thinking about that?
Not at all. This is a company that's going to be headquartered in the US once the deal wraps up. They are going to have their main listing in the US. They're going to have Mount Catlin side, all their assets in the Americas, bar downstream in Asia. So, Paul Graves, the guy who's going to be leading the merge co, he sort of said that they're going to maintain a strong presence in WA, but I'm just not buying that at all. I think Mount Catlin is going to be sold in the next couple of years once this deal is wrapped up. And you had a bit of a look at the value of Mount Catlin in that independent experts report. Anything of note there?
Yeah, I think yours is a fair comment. I haven't heard or seen too much of Allkem, Livent kind of building out a BD team in WA or anything like that. So kind of I'd probably be similar minded to you on that front. I did look at the independent expert, how they value Mount Catlin. So they ascribe a valuation of US $566 million, then plus an exploration value of US $50 million. I'm not so sure about that exploration value at Mount Catlin, but we'll leave it there anyway. So the recovery at that operation has been so bloody volatile. We've been talking about Mount Catlin intimately with each quarterly that kind of comes out.
Yeah, DMS only, going through fine grain stuff, that part of the ore body, it was it was low as 24%.
22 in September last year. 22% for the quarter.
It has got a bit, I think the previous quarters have got a bit better.
A year later, the last quarter, it was up to 68%. And it kind of gradually increased up to there. The IER models an average remaining life recovery of 56%, but they even model quite a bit of volatility there. And I think that recovery is going to be a big driver of value, whatever the view on that recovery is going to be. So, I just think those are some important considerations. I'm not sure how you chuck in US $50 million exploration value at Mount Catlin.
Maybe another one for Christina to fight over.
Yeah, but it's you look at it here, it's Norseman to, unless there's a road going through the guts, Norseman to Ravensthorpe's about 300 Ks. So it's sort of off. I don't know if it's going to be a play in that region or not.
No,
it looks it's pretty isolated.
Probably a bit far away, but maybe some small company wants to take it on as a standalone and sort of prove its worth, see if they can go. Now let's talk about the incentives, one of our favourites here. So like I mentioned, you've got all the various players, and I mean, let's just sort of peel back the curtain and look at those transaction costs, because they're up there with some of the best we've seen, right?
Mate, the costs are insane. So the combined transaction costs, this is a pre-tax number, US $117 million. That's 190 million Aussie dollars at the moment.
Transaction costs.
Now, I've never seen a mining company transaction costs that high. I've put the word out to as many of my investment banker mates as I know, and I said, have you ever seen transaction costs in a merger this high? And we're talking people who have advised on giant deals before, and no one has ever seen transaction costs this high on any of the deals they have ever looked at or advised on before. This is insane, but let's break it down. Where are these transaction costs being ascribed to? Allkem estimated to be paying US $55.1 million of that 117. 37 of that is going to the bankers, the financial advisors.
And that's just on the Allkem side?
Just on the Allkem side. 10.3 million to the lawyers, the rest kind of bits and dregs. Livent, they don't break it down, but 61.9 million bucks there. US, yeah. And even if the scheme is implemented, those combined costs of US 48 million or Aussie 70 million are due. So that's even if the deal fails, that's kind of still owed, which is a staggering number. I mean, to put it into perspective, right? If anyone's been following the Origin M&A kind of saga that's going on there, it's not in our wheelhouse and we haven't been talking about it, but it's a massive bloody thing. The deal's been going on forever, and it's twice as big on a quantum basis. And the fees are only about two-thirds as large. There's just, twice as long, twice as big, yet fees are not even comparable to this. The degree of transaction costs accrued in this is literally mind-boggling to me. I cannot fathom how they have how they are this big. I genuinely have no idea.
Yeah, just crazy. And they're just the cash costs that we're talking about as well. So you've got other costs that come about, that are non-cash. We're talking performance rights, incentives that are going to key personnel. And I mean, a lot of those, a lot of that paper will vest on a change of control event, which this obviously is.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right. I think when you talk about costs, it's easy to talk about the cash costs and not the paper that converts. So Allkem, they have 3.3 million performance rights in their equity incentive scheme for employees and directors and the like was these performance rights options. You can see on this chart that I'm flashing up on screen that it was resolved that a huge chunk of these rights vest, the split isn't like quite clear, but let's assume that 3 million of those rights, vest and come to surface here by way of shares. That's another Aussie $26 million in paper that you can think of as a cost. Granted, we don't know how much of that would have vested anyway without a change of control, but just gives some colour into the kind of numbers we're talking about here. Sure, there's a merger and there's synergies, and there are costs associated with it, but these are pretty enormous costs. Like your synergies have to be like pretty staggering to overcome the cost of actually doing a deal.
Absolutely, mate.
Trav, there's another element that sort of tickles your whistle a lot as part of this, mate. I know what makes you tick, and nothing more excites you. Pretty much the equivalent for me talking about K-Drill is shareholder activism for you, mate.
Yeah, it's my dream one day, mate, is to grow up and become an activist.
You sort of are, in a way.
This is the non-conformist.
You're doing
activist.
like activist representation.
Yeah, exactly, in a transparent way. So there is an angle for activists here, and that's why we're talking about it, because we read an article in the AFR, and that article in the AFR includes some quotes from Rafi Lam at L1 Capital critiquing the IER. The question is, why is that? What are the incentives there? Well, like L1 are activist investors. Remember when we were talking about the St. Barbara Silver Lake thing? L1 were the fund that were comfortable to say, we're not happy Silver Lake haven't been let in the data room. They were vocal about that, right? Whereas other institutions were not happy to be vocal about it.
Yeah, they were the St. Barbara holders in that case. Mm-hmm. And they literally set up a fund called L1 Catalyst. So, hint, they're into this stuff.
Yeah, and that fund, an explicit view on generating alpha from activism. I think it's an interesting fund, that one, because it's only to hold 6 to 8 positions where they do deep work on each of those positions and try to create a result. Being public isn't always part of activism. There's a huge amount of activism that happens behind closed doors, but these sorts of firms are happy to be public, which is why, Rafi, come on the bloody show.
Trav, don't go sending him your CV. We kind of need you for the podcast, mate. That's if you're going to work at a fund, that'd be it.
No. He'll be working for us.
Jesus. There's a couple of last things to touch on here. One, just to rile up all the people we speak to regularly, the holders of Azure, Wildcat, and a few of these other ones. I'm just going to read out a quote from the Livent CEO, Paul Graves. There's a massive disconnect today, between the value someone is ascribing to a very, very, very early stage or technically challenging project in Australia with only a maiden resource and without full ownership. So, Azure, listen in, I think. And lastly, we didn't comment on the time, but a couple of weeks ago they came out with the name Arcadium Lithium. That's what the merge co is going to be called. What do you guys think?
Sounds a bit retro. I don't know.
I was more in favour of, what did we call it?
Livecam.
Yeah, I like that one better. That was a good one.
All right, Matty, you've got a brand new segment to finish us up on today.
Are you going to contribute to this one, or am I going?
Mate, I don't know what it is, so you fly in and I'll see if I've got anything to contribute.
Because everything's where I want to be proactive, not reactive. So we're talking a lot about lithium because it's in the news, but how about we get a month or two ahead and think about what's going to be in the news?
So put a prediction of what's going to happen.
Prediction, but stuff that's still laying a bit dormant that is yet to have an outcome. All right, what I think's coming up?
What is your prediction then, mate?
Well, let's go back to the roots of money of mine, the Leonora district.
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot to play out there. Genesis are at the stage of their compulsory acquisition of Dacian. So when I say Leonora, we're Leonora Laverton now, you'd say. That's that area. So their offer closes this Friday for the compulsory acquisition for the Dacian shareholders to take it up. Now, you've also got Silver Lake. Remember, they've got their 11% stake in Red 5. Red 5 with the big mill, Silver Lake with all the cash. Genesis, though, do now have, as we previously described, a base case scenario where they don't need that Red 5 mill between the Dacian mill and the Gwalia mill. So they've set up so they're not relying on that, I don't think.
Right.
You also got Brightstar.
Yeah.
Toll treating at Gwalia. Brightstar, now ding, 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 I do hold a small amount of Brightstar shares, full disclosure before I say this.
Yeah.
But they're toll treating their ore at Gwalia. They've got operations either side of Laverton and Leonora. So I think there's a bit to play out. First bit of action, I think, will be figuring out what is going to come out of the Silver Lake quarter to see what this 11% shareholding means. I don't think I see any value in Genesis wanting to merge with Silver Lake now that they've got this base case scenario. But will this force Silver Lake's hand to merge with Red 5? Because if you put them side by side, everyone talks about, Silver Lake will take over Red 5. But if you put them side by side...
It's the other way around now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, okay. Silver Lake's market cap today is 970 million. This table's from the recent Canaccord note. So Red 5 have got a bigger market cap. Their EVs, because Silver Lake have got 370 million in cash.
Red 5 have net debt, yeah.
Yeah, so and then the EV in this one doesn't include the Red 5 shares because it's like a liquid dynamic asset. So Silver Lake's EV is pretty much about 607 million. Red 5's is 1,200, so twice as big of an operation. So a merger would seem way more likely than Silver Lake taking over Red 5. So
I disagree on the merger happening there anytime soon. Yeah, I don't think either of them are forced to do anything at the moment. Like having the stake for Silver Lake is all that they really were probably trying to achieve. And they don't like which one of them has the kind of, to get a deal done, you need people to be like, I'm bloody forced to do this. I need to do this. Otherwise, rah, rah, rah.
But do you think it'd be a logical merger in the terms of Red 5 have got the big operation, long life operation till I think it's FY37, balance sheet pressure. Then you've got Silver Lake with 300 odd million in cash.
It totally depends on balance sheet, I think. Like if Red 5 can see through any balance sheet stress, I mean, they're paying down the debt. I don't know how it looks throughout the mine. I know they've got more capital to come with another cutback in due course. But I
think Red 5 would solve Silver Lake's problems of depleting reserve and resources. Silver Lake would solve Red 5's problems of balance sheet pressure.
I got one for you on this topic though, Matty, and that's one to look out for in a couple of months. So the biggest dog act you can do in corporate Australia is go hostile, like a hostile M&A bid, like right before Christmas. Think like Christmas Eve, 23rd December, whatever the last day of trading is. It's the biggest.
That extends beyond corporate Australia.
Mate, it's such a dog act because all of a sudden everyone's Christmas plans blown up, gone. You have to cancel Christmas. Like bankers are called in. Like you're the board of like having 10 calls a day on Christmas doing work, and it blows out right until Easter. Like it's horrible. So my open-ended question to you and the money miners is there a company that you expect to do the biggest dog act in Australia this Christmas Eve or 23rd December or whatever?
Silver Lake. Silver Lake, just something to do with Genesis. Yeah.
Where's the bad blood, right?
Where's the bad blood? Second bit of action, as I said, if you take Red 5 out of the equation, Genesis of,
Is this a second throw at the dartboard?
Second throw at the dartboard. I think Genesis are going to be, now they've got Dacian, it's going to be, I reckon they'd rather mop up little ones rather than going for like a big Red 5 or anything.
Yeah.
And look, because Brightstar have got operations at either end. They put out that scoping study for 40,000 ounces a year for 8 years. I think they'll be on Genesis's radar.
My take would be that Genesis will be quiet for a while. Now, once the Dacian bid is complete, they'll be focused on getting Admiral and Ulysses as well as Redcliffe from the north, filling up the Gwalia mill, which they can hopefully do relatively soon in the shorter term. And then in the meantime, I'd see Mount Morgan's being on care and maintenance for quite a few more years to come. Maybe a bit more drilling out there to get a bit of a feel. And they've also got their hands full with Tower Hill, and we'd spoken previously about the railway and things. So, I mean, it hadn't stopped them in the past, but they've got quite a bit of work to do. So
yeah, and it's that Tower Hill lag. It's that 2 to 3 years. It's like, are they going to try and fill the void quicker than that, or are they going to really?
Well, Tower Hill. I'd seen the reports that would go to Mount Morgan's.
And
they'd be filling up Gwalia with the rest of the stuff between Ulysses and Gwalia predominantly.
So it's waiting for Ulysses to be developed and come online. So,
Matty, anyway, I haven't got a good prediction off the top of my head. I'll think about it and we'll get back to you later this week.
You can revert to next week.
You've clearly thought this one through, so I'm not just going to throw a random one, but we'll get there.
If something comes to fruition in 2 months, we're first on the case.
And that's it. And we've thrown so many out over the past half year that we just have to trawl through the videos and find one that hits.
All I need is Albemarle and Gina to get along and take Limetown, and I'm sweet. I'll win bets over that. That's me big one.
Alrighty.
Righto.
Good stuff, guys.
Love your work, boys. We've got a good interview coming up this afternoon that'll drop Thursday with one of the first fundies we interviewed. And, mate, this bloke is sensational at shooting the shit. I'm pumped.
Yeah, should be a good one.
Going to be an absolute ripper about all the hot stuff we talk about.
For sure.
Righto. Too easy. Thanks to all the partners. As always, DSI Underground, Terra Capital, McMahon Mining Title Services. Hopefully they're still sponsoring us after my video footage yesterday. I think they are.
I think they were fans.
I think they liked it.
That's it.
Future Proof Consulting at the top of the show. Anytime Exploration Services, KCA Site Services, JP Search, Brooks Airways, and K-Drill.
That's it. Thanks a bunch, guys, and hoodaroo.
Hoodaroo, money miners.
The information contained in this episode of Money of Mine is of general nature only and does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. Before making any investment decision, you should consult with your financial advisor and consider how appropriate the advice is to your objectives, financial situation, and needs.